why it can be hard to get started after years of failure. I think the reason is because human nature. You've heard me talk about it before. We're always going to work harder to move away from pain than we will to move towards pleasure. And what happens, the reason we can't get started is because there's an internal conflict within us. On one side, we know, oh man, if I just exercise, if I just eat well. On the other side of that is health, abundance, confidence, energy, all that great stuff. But on the same token, the other thing pulling at us is the pain associated. Well, every time I've tried in the past, I haven't been able to do it. Either A, I don't get to the goal, or B, I can't sustain it, and I don't want to go through that pain again. It's kind of similar like with relationships, right? How many times have you heard of someone that is like, I'm done with men, or I'm done with women, right? I'm done. Dating is not for me. And the reason they feel like dating isn't for them is because of the pain that's been associated with it. And the way to be able to break through that pain is to gain new evidence that something can be different. Think about it. If you were ever at that point in the past where you were like, hey, I'm never dating again, but yet now you're married, something changed. What changed? Well, the first thing was probably enough time went by to where you decided, hey, the potential pain is maybe not as bad as the potential pleasure. So I'm going to give it another go. It's that same approach, but with fitness, right? And this is usually what happens. And this is with any pain. We try something, we fail, and then enough time goes by to where our brain either forgets the severity of the pain, or B, and this is more important, this is a more favorable option, you're able to find new evidence that you can break through, that this time will be different. Otherwise, we're stuck. We're just like the elephant that, I don't know if you guys know this, but when elephants are babies and they're trained in the circus, sometimes you see when they're adults, they have their ankle tied to one of these sticks of the tent. And it's weird because you walk by and you see, and they don't really do this much anymore, but back in like the 70s and 80s with circuses, you would see this elephant, and it's a fully grown elephant that's tied to this tent. With the power that this elephant has, it could easily rip down the entire tent. But it doesn't. And you wonder why. And when you ask anyone in the circus, they'll tell you, well, when the elephant's a baby, we tie a rope to the ankle of the elephant. And the elephant tries for about 6 months to try to break free. And it pulls and it pulls and it pulls, and it can't break free. And then it pulls and it pulls and it pulls, it can't break free, until eventually 6 months later, it decides, I'll never break free. This isn't for me. I'm essentially, its belief that it can be free and rip down this tent goes away. But the elephant keeps growing. And even though the elephant keeps growing and becomes so strong and powerful and capable of ripping that tent down, it will never try again. And I believe that's a good metaphor for where all of us are at. If you have yet to be able to start your journey, because there's that internal conflict inside you saying, oh, if I start again, it's just going to be painful. I'm here to tell you that you have all the power within you to do this. Yes, one-on-one coaching can help, but you don't need it. You can do it. It will be easier with a coach, right? But you have the power within you to do this. I promise you. I promise you. It's just doing it differently. It's being able to gain evidence that this time can be different. And one of the best ways I like to gain evidence, right? Because if we're thinking about an equation, the way to be able to break free and get started after years of failure is to be able to change your belief. That's why one of the most empowering things and important things I believe we do on our one-on-one RN body transformation planning session calls with our, I'll say, clients before their clients, is we bring them from a state of disbelief to empowering them belief. Why? Somebody can say, oh, that's just a good sales tactic. Maybe, I don't know. What I think is that you will never do anything unless you believe you can, right? So if you want to be able to go from failure, or if you want to be able to go from no action to action, you have to believe the actions you're going to take are going to work. Otherwise, you're stuck. Otherwise, you'll never do anything. And it doesn't matter how good a program is, if somebody can't be able to get you past the level of, okay, I think I can do this, it doesn't matter. So whether or not you're working with us, or whether you're not, or whether you're working on your own, the first thing we need to do to be able to go from, man, I don't know if I can do this, to being empowered enough to get started is you have to change your belief. And you change your belief only by gaining new evidence that this time can be different. And that's not a one-time thing. I'll say to have a breakthrough, you don't change your belief once and then you're done. That's not how it works. What happens, and this is the truth, you do need that initial belief to get started. And this is, I do believe, the value of a coach, but you can do this on your own, is things aren't going to go perfectly. They're not. You're going to start and then something is going to happen where you take action and the results don't follow. Now what? Well, now your belief goes down. You have to be a master at being able to identify first when your belief is down here and be able to increase it, to be able to take the next action, right? The difference between people that finally break through and have everything they want with their body, and they have the energy and the confidence and the waistline and the whatever. The difference is not how many times they feel discouraged. The difference is how many times they can feel discouraged and they get right back on with massive belief. And that's where I believe coaching is the most impactful, right? Everything we want in life is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics, in my opinion. Meaning that the fitness, the nutrition, the science of weight loss is not the hard part. It's everywhere, right? And yeah, we can help you with that. But the thing that's going to be able to push you to the other side with one-on-one coaching, or just with anything, like the purpose of a coach, in my opinion, is to, when you are feeling discouraged, to bring you back up, get that belief back up so that you change your approach, you take more action, which leads to more results. And then eventually you create so much momentum, like a snowball going at the top of a mountain, that a snowball in the beginning, if it's going down and gaining snow, it's small, you can stop it. But eventually it gains so much momentum after it's been falling for months. In this case, or we could call it, minutes in real time, but months in our time, eventually you gain so much momentum, you cannot stop. You will not stop. It will take more effort to stop that thing than it will to be able to keep going. And that's where I'm at in my fitness journey. That's where Carla's at in her fitness journey. For those of you who don't know Carla's story, she lost 120 pounds with us. I don't want this whole talk to be about like success stories and stuff, but I'll show you this really fast because I think that it is impactful. It changes belief when we say, whoa, damn, that's possible. When we look at like Carla. So Carla, she's maintained her weight now for about 6 years. And let me pull this up. That way you can see it, because it's hard to see it's hard to believe it without seeing it, right? But this was Carla right here. She had tried and failed so many times. Can you imagine where she was at this point? Can you imagine the feeling she had at that point? I can promise you it wasn't one of empowerment. It wasn't one of, oh, okay, yeah, I can totally do this. It was one of, man, I don't know if this is going to work. And I think that honestly, the best skill that I may have in being able to help people transform their lives is get started. And then when they're feeling discouraged, to encourage them again. Because let's be real, we do not need to be reinforced with, hey, you should be eating more veggies. No shit. What we need is somebody to help us feel encouraged when we're discouraged for long enough to where eventually it becomes a habit. It becomes a part of your identity. The strongest force in the human personality is staying consistent with the way we see ourselves. And I promise you that Carla, it took her 2 years to get here, but I promise you, Carla, 2 years later, her identity had changed. It changed so much, she became one of my coaches. Since then, she's opened her own gym in the area, and it's great. But that doesn't happen unless you're able to keep your belief up all the way through. Because think about it. If you ever failed in the past, it's usually because of what? You stopped. So imagine if we just never stopped again. And the way you do that is by either having someone or yourself being armed enough to increase your belief when you're not feeling empowered, or to take actions that are small enough to where you can never feel discouraged. Magic formula. I saw some comments come in. If you guys are here too, feel free to say, hey, I saw a comment come in. You were the bomb. That's nice. I appreciate it. I can't see who said it though. I have to go in and look. Lisa, good to see you. Lisa said you're the bomb. Patty, good morning. Good to see you. The point of all this is just to be able to say that you can break through, and you break through by getting a new belief that this time can be different. And you have to gather, you have to gather the evidence. And sometimes that evidence is just the fact that, you know what, all these other people did it using a strategy that I haven't used before. And whether or not you work with us in one-on-one coaching, the strategy still works. And then you get the belief to get started. So I'll tell you a quick story of how this applies to me. When I started my first gym, I had no idea what I was doing. To the point where I signed a lease when I was 22 years old, a personal guarantee for, I believe it was $240,000, because rent was like $4,000 a month, and I signed it for 3 or 4 years, right? I did not have that money. All I knew was that I loved people, and I loved to light people up, and I wanted to see people break through. And I knew fitness, and I knew how to change people's state, right? But I didn't know business. So essentially, we were 4 months in, and we had the first 3 months for free. And the fourth month, we had to pay $4,000 a month in rent, and I only had $2,800 in revenue coming in for the business. We're not even getting paid yet. This is just to cover rent. Now, you can imagine how I'm feeling all the way up to this point. I'm feeling like I want to give up. I'm feeling like I'm a failure. But the only thing that kept me going was, one, the encouragement of my friend, he was my best friend at the time, still is a really good friend. Since then, he's moved to New Mexico. Amazing man, probably one of the most amazing men I've ever met. I'm going to talk about him later. His name's Abe. He's an amazing guy. Abe, if you see this, you're great, but you already know that. You already know I'm your biggest fan. Great guy, and I can talk about him for days. But his encouragement when I was down, but also the evidence from other people who have done it. I got around a group of people that grew really successful gyms. I remember the first time I ever heard somebody had 500 members. And I'm not talking about a big box gym. I never liked those. I work out at those, but I never liked to be a part of them in an ownership way. I've always liked small, right? Boutique, 200 members, boot camps, that sort of thing. And because that way you can build connection with people, right? And you can actually, I believe, have an impact. So that's what all my gyms were. But this first gym, I remember the first time I was in a group of these gym owners at this event, and I remember hearing this person had 500 members. I was like, we had like 20. I'm like, this is insane. This is possible. And what that does is it increases belief. It's new evidence. Hey, they did it. I can do it too. So sometimes what we need is just evidence. Like, for example, really quick, just to be able to help you get out of your own way if you're feeling like you're in it and you need evidence that it's possible. So like the number one goal that I have with everyone is being able to help people. Like the reason we have this group is to help people have breakthroughs, right? Physically and mentally. And in other words, it's to help them transform their body and sustain it forever. To help you transform your body and sustain it forever. Well, the only way that happens is if, of course, you're able to start. You have to start. But one of the ways that you can increase your belief to start is just by hearing other people that have done it. For example, Heather. Heather lost 86 pounds. It took her about a year to do it. And this is coming from someone that struggled for 20 years to lose the weight. It took her 20 years of ups and downs. And I remember the first time we ever talked, she had said, I've lost 300 pounds. And I was like, thrown back in my chair. And I'm like, you lost 300 pounds? That's amazing. I'm like celebrating. She goes, no, I've lost the same 20 pounds 15 times. Oh, got it. And my excitement turned to embarrassment. And she said, I own very expensive coat racks. And pretty much every piece of exercise equipment on every infomercial, they just become coat racks in my house. And I don't use them. And she was a chronic dieter, yo-yoing up and down, 20 pounds up and down. What did it take for her to change? Well, one, it was the fact that she stopped relying on herself alone. The fact that, just like this, the reason that this group exists Like, yes, it's an opportunity for people to find out about the one-on-one coaching we do, and that's great. But a lot of people will never use one-on-one coaching with us, and that's okay. My goal is still to help you break through. And I promise you that you will break through if you can just get started and keep your belief up. And that's what this group is for. It's designed to do, to be able for you to hear the stories of other people. Like, nothing fills me up more. Of course, like, it's great when we have a one-on-one client share their success, and it's amazing and it's cool, but it's equally as cool when we have someone who's never worked with us one-on-one. They've just been silent in the group. And then just one day they post a photo and they're like, hey, I've never posted in this group before. But in the last 4 months, I've lost 15, 20 pounds. And for the first time, I have no food guilt. And I don't see myself stopping. It's not hard. And I just want to say thank you. Breakthrough. That's what we're talking about. And to be able, and then it's a feedback loop, right? Because then it's like a momentum. You see that and you go, no, well, hold on a sec. She did it. I can do it too. And like, yeah, doing it with a coach makes it easier, makes it streamlined, but it's not required, right? You can break through. I promise you. I've seen so many people do it. Like, this isn't me just like getting up all high to be like, yeah, join our coaching program if you want to, cool. But like, that's not what this is about. This is about you having your breakthrough. And you can have it. You might even be on your way to it. And to that, I honor you, right? But, we have other people as well. I mean, Kim, it's funny, when I first met with Kim, her, she said, I just want to lose 15 pounds. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. I said, but what's the final goal? She goes, oh, I don't want to say. I said, okay, yeah, but what's the final goal? Where do you want to be? So I'm embarrassed to say. I said, where do you want to be? She said, I'd love to be able to get back in a bikini, but I've had 2 kids. I'm 40 this year, not going to happen. I said, cool. Let's go 5 pounds at a time. And long story short, she lost 33 pounds. It took her almost a year to do. Pound a week. But that was like 33 pounds of fat. I think it's easy too to get stuck into this place of, oh my gosh, numbers, right? The number equates to how good I'm doing. And that's just not true, because you can lose 30 pounds and have 10 of it be water weight and muscle and lean body mass and 20 be fat. And you're not like, it's not as good as losing 18 and having all of it be fat, right? Because like, you want to preserve muscle, you want to preserve water. Those are good things. You need them. And like, one of the best things, I was reading a study recently, and I think this is commonly known, but if it's not, here you go. One of the best things you can do if you ever contract like cancer or anything to the sort of I'll say are in hospital, or your body's going through a big crisis, one of the best things you can have is lean body mass. Lean body mass can save your life in old age or with cancer, right? And that is powerful. Hope nobody gets it here. Good morning. If you guys are here, say hi. Always good. My goal here, of course, is to inspire, right? Move you from not having the opportunity to start yet to be able to get past that, right? We're inspiring belief here. That's the idea. So you can totally break through. You can do it. You can get there. I promise you. And like, I know this is really hard to read, but like, the coolest thing about Kim too is she says, let me make this big for you. She says, I did this without focusing on dieting. What? Without focusing on dieting? How'd she do that without focusing on dieting? Because she just focused on increasing her protein and nourishing her body. And it was, the psychology of weight loss is not, we are not, as I think a generality, like as a public, we have not transitioned generally to the truth that the psychology of weight loss is the most important thing to make habit change last forever. And like, it might not sound like much to say like this difference for her, that she completely changed her lifestyle and didn't focus on dieting, but focused on nourishing her body. That's a huge difference. And the reason that's a huge difference is because everything we do is up here, right? It's our associations. If you feel deprived and you're a rebel, the inner rebel, it wants to come out. Oh, fuck that. I'm going to do it anyway, right? I'm going to eat that thing anyway, right? Whatever. But if you don't have that and you can eat it, the desire in itself tends to reduce. It's kind of powerful. So you can totally do this. And let me know if this resonates, right? But like I was saying before, when Carla got started, I'll say that too. You don't even have to see the end goal. When you run a marathon, a lot of people, you feel like you need to be able to see the finish line. And that's not true. You don't. You just need to get started. Like when you start a marathon for real, like, can you see the finish line? No, you can't. So why would we try when we're doing something else? It's our human need for certainty, right? But you can get certainty in other ways. So when it comes down to getting started, you just have to know what's the next goal. And like, honestly, I don't recommend putting the goal to necessarily wait. The best way to be able to set yourself up for success is to detach from the result completely, which is hard to do. Very hard to do. Because if you can detach, think about it just for a second. If the goal is to be able if we know as a truth to be able to get to your goal, and the goal is an infinite game to lose weight and sustain it forever, transform your body and sustain it forever. And the way we do that is by never stopping. Wouldn't we want to optimize our thinking for that? And the answer probably is yes, right? And one of the best ways you can do that is detach your outcome from results or from weight loss or from physique to performance. An example of that would be Kim, or I'm sorry, an example of that would be Carla. So with Carla, she went from she lost 130 pounds, but her goals changed when she was about halfway there. They didn't just continue with weight. For her, they went to performance. I want to be strong. She started getting into resistance training, and she started doing like heavy barbell deadlifts and squats. And now it didn't matter what her, if she just looked at her body, the progress would have been so slow, she would have got discouraged. But with barbells, she could now control something where she saw, hey, every week or two, I'm increasing it by 5 to 10 pounds. Progress. Positive feedback loop. Versus if she was just stepping on the scale every day, up and down, up and down, up and down, in the grand scheme going down. But again, we have to manage our emotions. Get rid of the scale. Throw it out. Doesn't matter. Instead, let's focus on something in your control that you can always win with. What if we could attach your feeling of success to the actions themselves, right? What if you could just, regardless of what the scale said, what if you could just feel great? And if you guys are here, feel free to say hi. And if this is helpful, feel free to like it. More people see it. And if you have a question, I'm here to answer it too. But because no one's talking in the comments, I'm just going to keep ranting. But what if you could attach your feeling of results to the actions themselves? Well, essentially, that would mean that as long as you do the actions, you would never have the potential negative feedback loop of not getting results on the scale. And then you would win. Because again, the way that you win the goal is the way you win this game is by never stopping again. That's it. So that's what we have to optimize for. We are not optimizing for 20 pounds in 6 weeks, right? That's what people will sell you. But I will not. I will not sell you on that idea. Because out of those 20 pounds you lose, 10 of it is fat, maybe 12. 6 of it is water, or 5, and 2 to 3 pounds is muscle. Not what we want. I would rather you lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks and have 9 of it be fat. Now we're talking. Because one of them is sustainable, one of them is not. And we all know the mechanics of lean body mass, right? The more lean body mass you have, the more powerful your engine is, right? And the more that you're going to be able to burn at rest, calories-wise, which is great. But that's the key, is we have to be able to keep our belief up. You have to have enough belief to get started, and then you have to be able to have actions in place or environments that keep your belief where it needs to be. This is why during our 7-day challenge, it sounds funny, but the 3 things we focus on our free 7-day challenges are sleep, increasing your protein, and self-talk. That last one, people go, well, whoa, you wait to stop it. Shouldn't we be exercising and doing like high intensity training and all that stuff? Sure, maybe. But that's not the biggest lever. Why? If you're looking at the short term, this is how you know the difference between a short-term thinker and a long-term thinker. If you want to win this game, an infinite game, which is a game that never stops, you have to be a long-term thinker. You have to shift from short to long-term thinking. And the only way you do that is by focusing on starting and never stopping again. So if we're thinking about getting there, it's really about creating an environment or creating actions that keep our belief high, or when it goes down, actions to bring it back up. And that's why on that 7-day challenge, the last thing we focus on, or one of the core 3, is self-talk. And it's input. You don't change your self-talk by talking to yourself different. That's not how it goes. You change your input. You listen to this. You listen to other podcasts of ours. You listen to other podcasts in general. You listen to guys like Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar. You listen to people that empower you and make you go, oh yeah, maybe I can, or maybe I am worth it, or maybe I am awesome, or hey, maybe I can do this, or yeah, maybe I did fail a little bit, but you know what? I can get back on I can start this. Because think about it. The only difference between you yo-yoing forever and being able to stay consistent is the gap between your belief going down and coming back up. I'm going to say that one more time because this is probably the most profound thing I've ever said on the internet. The difference between you getting to your final goal and not is your ability, or is your, I'll say ability to, or is the length of time that your belief stays down. Because everybody has their belief go down. But the difference between you staying the course or feeling like you're staying the course is the amount of time between your belief going down. Because think about it. If your belief goes down, you feel discouraged, and then you stop for 3 months, well, yeah, now you're off the wagon, and now you have to get all riled up again to get going. And now you're yo-yoing. In that time, you've gained the weight back, and now you need to lose it again. But what if you felt the disbelief, and then an hour later, or 2 hours later, or 6 hours later, or then 12 hours later, your belief went back up and you went right back on? You win. That's it, right there. Now, of course, then you need the mechanics to make sure that the actions you're doing are actually working, but that's not hard. That's super easy. I promise you. And I'm not just saying that because well, maybe I am saying that because I've done it with so many people, but it's also everywhere. And I am not gatekeeping at all. All the information for mechanics that you need to transform your body is in this group. I've made videos on it. I've made them multiple times, and I don't make them, I'll say, every day or every week because they bore people to tears, or it bore me to tears. But the thing that will most importantly be able to have you hit this goal and sustain it is shortening the gap, shortening the amount of time from when you're feeling discouraged to feel encouraged again. Because if that's the case, let's say you get discouraged, I don't know, every day. If you can just get re-encouraged every day, you'll never stop until eventually you hit your goal, and then you don't need this. When I was a kid, I needed to listen to Tony Robbins every day to be able to gain the evidence that I can be successful and can help people and am worthy. But eventually, you listen to this enough that your thinking changes, and now I'm the one saying it, and I'm the one helping others break through, right? And that's because this is what goes on in my head. And that's what you can have as well. I promise you. Carla, Kim, whoever, anyone we've worked with, the reason that they're able to sustain their weight 6 years later, or 7 years later, 8 years later, or 4 years later, is because their thinking changed. When your thinking changes, your actions change. And your thinking only changes when your input changes. Input, thinking, actions, results. Everyone's focused on the mechanics, which is the actions. What do I have to do? Take a step back. What are you thinking about? If you stop, it's because of your thinking, not because of the actions. How do you change your thinking? You change your input. Hopefully this is impactful. I see 4 or 5 of you watching. Feel free to comment or like this. Like, let me know you're here. I'm just ranting. Like people will ask me what the mission is, and I've said the mission a lot of times. It's in our description. It's to help people have physical and mental breakthroughs, baby. You know, Hey, that's what it's about. Whether or not you ever work with us with one-on-one coaching, and like, I want this message of belief to go as far as it possibly can, because that's what it takes to get started. You need belief. You need to know that this time can be different. And when you gain enough evidence that this time can be different, you'll get started. Then the key is keeping that belief up through this. This is a psychology game. Don't get it twisted. Right? When we work one-on-one with people, it's not about the fitness and nutrition. Yes, do we go over that? Yeah. Do we optimize it? Sure. But this is a psychology game. Right? I promise you that if we were all AI and didn't have emotions, maybe, I don't know, maybe AI does have emotions, but I can promise you that if we were all just non-emotional, we had no limbic system, and all we had was our neocortex and rational brain, I wouldn't be here, because you wouldn't need me. You wouldn't need any of this, because we would just logically say, yeah, I need to prioritize my long-term health. I need to do this thing now. And then you would do it and you would never stop. But the fact is, we are emotional creatures, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a deficit. That's a great thing, because by being an emotional creature, you get to experience feelings, the highs of life. You get to experience the joy that's associated with achieving a goal, or hugging your child, or being in love. And these are all amazing things. So, don't be sad that you're emotional, or don't be, upset that you're emotional. Just know that that's the way it is, and we can work despite it. We can work in alignment with it, so we can get all the good things of having emotions, and then be able to get rid of maybe some of the bad. So, hopefully this is impactful. Any questions before we wrap up here? And I can keep talking about this too. We got 6 people watching now. Thomas, good to see you. Gail says, I'm glad I listened to this. Awesome. Naomi says, good morning. I think that's all I can see. Morning. Good to see you. Gail says, I work midnights and don't sleep well on a few days, 3 days in a row. But I know and believe I can still do this without constant proper sleep. I have done midnight shifts for years, and I'm used to this sleep. It's way different than most, right? I always thought nothing can be done because my sleep is different. I can and have overcome that thinking. That's amazing. So like, this is a great example of, I'll say, a belief. If we believe that this thing out of our control to a degree, which it is, and it's in our influence, but we can't control it if we're in that job. If we allow this thing to say, well, because I'm not perfect and because I can't get 8 hours a night, I just can't get the body I want. Well, guess what? We're not going to try. But if, like you said, well, hey, you know what? What can I do despite this? Right? Because the fact is, we all have things that we cannot control. We all have things like, for example, our kid coming home and having a bad day and being stressed, or like even right now, like, I can't control my son crying outside that door. I mean, I guess I could. My wife's with him now, but like I could go out and I could hold him, but like I still in my mind have to serve you guys. So I can't control that right now. So I just have to be able to focus in, and what can I do despite it? Well, I can acknowledge it like I just did. Right? So it's like, you can, despite your obstacles, break through. Things don't have to be perfect. Like a lot of us, and I struggle with this in the past too, is just like perfectionism. Like, oh, if I'm not doing everything perfect, then I don't get the high from like feeling like I'm having a breakthrough. And that's a trap. Real transformation should be boring. And I know that sounds funny. Real transformation happens under our nose. It does not. I think Instagram and TikTok has I don't know what's the word, made this even more real, but it's a highlight reel, right? We watch the 2-minute clip of somebody's career, in basketball or in sports, and we go, wow, amazing. And we get used to that high. Or we see somebody's birthday party in a 30-second clip, and it's like 1 second clips back to back, and it's like, wow. And we get caught up in the high, when really the way you build and the way you transform is by doing small actions every day and never stopping. And the way that you do that consistently is simply by increasing your belief. That's it, every day. I was telling this to a friend of mine, because my friend wanted to start a business, and he said, man, I just, how do you deal with this, with the setbacks? And I said, one of the best skills I think I have is being able to be punched in the face by life. And then the next day at the latest, I'm enthusiastic and ready to try again. Think about it. When a child learns how to walk, do they get up the first time and then just like start running marathons? No. How does a child learn how to walk? They stand up, whoop, poof, fall. They stand up, whoop, fall. Does it happen in a day? No. Children learn to walk over many, many months. Imagine the first time or the first few times, like let's say, you're a parent and you see your child get up, fall, get up, fall, get up, fall. After the third time, you go, oh, hey, hold on, Cal. I don't think walking's for you. I think you gave it a really good effort, but I don't think walking's your style. I think you should stick to the crawling. No. And that's really empowering, because that means that inside of us, we all have that natural ability to be able to keep going through failure. But we've just lost it somewhere along the way because of the fear of what other people will say about us or what we'll say about ourselves. But if you can free yourself from that, that's where you really break through. That's where you're able to essentially, no matter what happens, get back on the wagon the next day. And think about it. If you were to get back on the wagon after every failure, and you just made the rule with yourself to never miss twice, that would essentially mean that you'd have 50% adherence. You'd be on track 50% of the time, which is probably a hell of a lot better than someone that hasn't started. And if you do it weekly, let's say every Saturday you just fall off the wagon, but there was no negative association to it, and you just got back on Sunday for the next 6 days, you'd still be on track. Was that 85% of the time? Powerful. Is this resonating? Is this helpful? Let me know in the comments. Let me know. Like this. Let me know. What's up? Shout. That way I'm not just some crazy, dad in his office just ranting to himself, looking at himself in the viewfinder. But yeah, if there's any message I feel like that I can share with you guys on a consistent basis, it's that it's one of hope. Right? Hope in the future is power in the present. If you want to be able to break through, we need to believe that our future can be better than our past or better than our current. And one of the places that we get stuck the most is believing that our past was better than our future and it'll never get better. That's a tough place to be, because not only are you plagued with whatever result that you currently have, but you're also plagued with the emotional side of things will never get better. And that weighs tons. That's painful. So hopefully this message of hope is getting through. I'd never thought, a comment came in, had never thought of that till unsaid it. Till you said it. Thomas, thought of what? Never thought of what? What was the thing? What did I say? I've said a lot of things. Let me know what it was. And as always, guys, if this is helpful, feel free to like this and comment. Also, let me know, what questions do you have? Where are you at in your journey? What's happening with you? I know Thomas started with us. That's great. He's on his journey. He's getting it done. I'm curious where others are at. People that are maybe joining this group for the first time. Where are you at? Where's your head at? How can we serve you? 80% rule. Yeah, that's a great rule. It's 80-20 is a great philosophy for getting started with things. Because think about it, just for a second, Like if we could throw perfectionism out the window and you were able to say that, look, 80% of the time I'm going to eat well and do like healthy things. And then 20% of the time, whatever. I'm just going to like, eat the whatever. You would be in great shape and health. You know, you'd be good. Like think about it. If you slept 8 hours a night and then like one night a week, you like stayed up till 2 in the morning and slept till 6, like cool. You'd still average like over 50 hours a week of sleep. It's pretty good. What about, especially comparatively, but what about food? Same thing. What if like one day a week you like, there are ways that, and of course there are mechanics that you can put into place to still enjoy yourself on like, I don't like calling them cheat days because it's a negative association and it enhances the inner rebel within us. But one of the best things that we can do is, on that day mechanically is, skip breakfast, drink a bunch of water, maybe have a protein shake or whatever, and then just save all those calories for, lunch and dinner for the event. Like very routinely when I was going through cuts, I would still I would like save my calories and go out and like eat Cheesecake Factory food. And you're like, how can you eat Cheesecake Factory Alfredo or Olive Garden Alfredo and lose weight? Because you just fit it in. But like that day a week, you don't even have to fit it in. Just eat over your calories. That's fine. Right. And it's all about the big picture. I think sometimes the negative emotions that we associate to our journey are because we're so myopically zoomed in to the small. And we feel the failure from this thing. And we like, this is where coaching can come in sometimes with cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's just a funny word for saying change the way you view it. If we can just zoom out and look at the big picture and realize that like, wow, in the grand scheme of things, when I compare this to 3 months ago, I'm doing really freaking good. It's amazing. And it's funny. People say, man, I wish I could hang around with you all day and like, and just like have you talking to my ear. Well, that's what these are for. Put them on. Like I don't want to say hundreds, I have dozens of these talks that you can just go back and listen to. They're on Spotify, they're on YouTube, they're in the Facebook group. And it's funny, somebody asked me before, hey, how do you keep up your self-talk? Well, part of it is because my thinking is that, right? A lot of it. But also I'm still getting hit with negative stuff all day. I mean, that's part of running a business. But, and I know you guys know that 100%. You're facing way worse stuff than I am, right? You're facing death every day. That's intense stuff. So you're getting hit with it. But honestly, as I talk to you right now, this is my self-talk. As I talk to you now and I say, hey, you can get through anything. And no matter where you are, you can, hope in the future is power in the present. And as I'm telling you these things, I'm really telling myself. So that's why too, I highly recommend that if you are trying to reinforce something, say it aloud. And that is where possibly, right, some affirmations can come into play, or even helping others. Like, so Carla and Heather are great examples of this. And if you haven't seen them, I'll just show you really quick, just so you can draw a face to them. But they're great examples of people that got to their transformation by helping others. So like that's Carla and that's Heather. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. So that's Heather, that's Carla. They got to their goal in part because they were very good at essentially reinforcing their thinking by helping others. So like back then, it was at one of my gyms and they were able to essentially, which brought them into coaching roles and both of them, but they were able to help others while they were still on their journey. And as they did that, an amazing thing happened. They reinforced it faster within themselves, just like how I'm doing with you. As I tell you, I'm really telling myself the best is yet to come. I promise you. And things might be hard. Things might feel impossible, but I promise you, in all the realms of possibility, you can get there. You just need to take a different approach. We've been going for 47 minutes now. I should probably end this. I always just plan on 10 minutes, but then you know how it goes. I get excited. Any thoughts before we wrap up here? Comments, questions? Hit me in the comments. Like this. Yeah, you can't share it because it's in a private group, but all that good stuff. We'll give it a minute because I know there's a slight delay with comments, and we'll wrap it up. The best is yet to come. Promise. All right. No comments. Enjoy the day, guys. Take care and just know the best is yet to come.